welcome this afternoon to our regular Sunday afternoon KB meetings that we hold in conjunction with the global Israeli leaders and Itan Drori, who is with us this afternoon, even though we can't see him. So we welcome people from all around the country, up north, New Zealand, on the west and east coasts. So welcome to our regular guests. There'll be a few more that'll come in as time goes on. But as you may well know, this meeting is being recorded, and we will post it out to many of the others who can't make it Sunday afternoons for other commitments and family and church, etc. So we record and we'll post it up to people. But today we have with us our special guest from Israel, who Itan knows well. And even though we can't see you, Itan, would you like to introduce Saamer to us?
Yes, usually when you put a long story in a session like we have at the moment, we are wasting time. And I think that the most important is to have it really very brief and explain that Saamer is, in a way, a senior leader in the Palestinian system, and he offers us, together with a team of distinguished colleague politicians, entrepreneurs, and people who sees the situation from a different perspective. He, in a way, provides us with hope, and I thought of recommending to have Saamer with us because I attended at least one session with him. Not to mention, I follow his appearance in various conferences in Israel, very much welcomed by Israeli media, always explaining that there is a different way to approach the crisis and a different way to develop hope in the region. And I thought that Saamer, who is a scholar at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, very much designing a joint thought and think tank at Truman Institute at the Hebrew University that we all know very well. If Truman Institute welcomes Saamer to give his angle, I would say it would be an honor for us to have him as well. And that's why I asked him to come. We're supposed to meet in Brussels soon, but it is postponed. So we are all joining each other to see if there is any way to expand the I would say, the efforts for a better time in the Middle East, and in particular between the Palestinian people and the Israeli people. So please, Saamer, I think now the stage is yours. Thank you very much.
Welcome so much.
Well, good evening. Thanks, Itan. I appreciate that you have facilitated for me to talk to a very prestigious group. I would like to start by introducing myself. I am a Palestinian political activist. I was born 52 years ago in the old city of Jerusalem. I started my political life very early. At the age of 14, I was one of the kids who were throwing stones in the city of Jerusalem. This brought me to 5 years period of prison. I was in Israeli jails, but I went in 93, and it was Oslo Accords. I was elected as the international secretary for Fatah Youth. Fatah Youth is the youth organization of the main political party in the Palestinian political system. And then I was handling the Israeli relation file for the Fatah Supreme Committee. this has brought me into a lot of opportunities to talk to Israelis at early stage of my political life, and I continue to do so. Now I am still a Fatah activist, but I am part of the opposition camp inside Fatah that is trying to change leadership. Sometimes when you say opposition, people think it's the minority usually. In our case, it's the majority. 90% of the Palestinian people are requesting from the current Palestinian President Abbas to leave the political scene and maybe better to leave the whole country. 35 years of dialogue with Israelis allowed me to understand not only the Palestinian people that I'm, of course, very much involved and know how the Palestinians think and see and react to this conflict, but I can claim that I am also maybe the only, maybe one of very, very few Palestinians who understand very much this conflict from the eyes of the Israelis. I believe for the two sides to be able to find a way out from this conflict, they should learn how to see this conflict from the eyes of the other side. This gives you depth of what is really this conflict. What I can tell you that even in days like these, days today, where we have a lot of mistrust, I can say that both Palestinians and Israelis live a cocktail of feelings: sadness, grief, maybe hatred, maybe a desire to revenge. It's there. These are very tough days. The 7th of October was very tough on the Israelis. The current war in Gaza is very tough on the Palestinians. But when this war ends, both Israelis and Palestinians, 7 million Jews and 7 million Palestinians in this land will again find themselves living together in the same piece of land, and there is no other choice but to find a way for coexistence, despite the pain of what has been happening since the 7th of October. Despite everything, we need to find a way of coexistence. And this is very complicated. It's not easy. I'll speak a little bit about the Palestinian situation. In the last 100 years, the Palestinians had only 3 leaders: Haj Amin al-Husseini, then Yasser Arafat, then Mahmoud Abbas. So for 100 years, the Palestinians really did not have the privilege of producing generations of leadership. There has been always a lack of leadership. The 3 leaders that I have mentioned did not manage to take decisions at certain points that could have benefited the Palestinian people in a better way. If you compare us to the Israelis, 100 years ago, both of us were a group of militias. We were fighting each other, and we were fighting the British mandate. Now Israel is an OECD country, very advanced in economy, technology, and all aspects of life. And we Palestinians, we remained as a group of militias. I can blame the whole world on this, but it's better to be an adult and assume responsibility. And I should say that we have also serious mistakes. And maybe it's time to try to correct these mistakes. One of the major mistakes, I think, in the Palestinian strategy. And here I'm, again, would like to focus on the Palestinian aspect in this conflict. And I don't want to make any comparison. I can talk for hours about what are the Israeli mistakes, but I would like to focus now on the Palestinian mistakes. We adopted a broken strategy in dealing with this conflict, a strategy that believes that through activating the international community, we can bring pressure over the Israelis, and then the Israelis will surrender into compromises. From my own experience and knowledge of the Israeli people, I can tell you that you cannot pressure the Israelis. We can maybe persuade the Israelis into something. Even if someday we will have Rashida Tlaib, who is a member of the American Congress from a Palestinian origin, if she becomes the American president, and if Ahmed al-Tibi, who is a member of the Israeli Knesset from Palestinian origins, become the Israeli prime minister, USA will not be able to pressure Israel into something with the Palestinians. I don't need to travel 10,000 kilometers to activate the White House or the Congress or any capital in the world against Israel. I need to travel 10 kilometers and talk to the Israelis and try to touch their minds and their hearts. This is a better strategy. The lack of confidence is a major issue that is challenging a possibility of a conflict resolution in the Middle East. We Israelis and Palestinians don't know each other. We Palestinians and Israelis hate each other. And we Palestinians and Israelis are not able to understand this conflict from the eyes of the others. We are not able to feel the grief and the suffer of the other side. So things need to be changed. I think, since I spoke about the lack of leadership from the Palestinian side, I do believe that a change in leadership on the Palestinian side will bring new dynamics in the Israeli-Palestinian relation. Now, currently, both leadership are not really signing into progress into the diplomatic tracks to reach somewhere. But it's enough if one leadership changes. It will have its impact on the other side. Since we, the Palestinians, I guess, are under a sense of urgency to find a solution to this conflict, we should take the first steps. We should show the change to the other side. We should influence the change at the other side. Why do we have more sense of urgency? Because I think the Israelis can maybe survive another 50 years with the current situation. Okay, they suffer, they send their kids to the army, they have security challenges, but they have a nice life. Their youngsters have better opportunity than our youngsters. They have a much better lifestyle, opportunities, economic level. The Palestinians don't have all of these. We cannot survive another 50 days in the current situation. So we have more obligation towards our people, first of all, to try to push a change, to try to find an exit out of this conflict. And I do believe that this change could happen only if we start communicating a message, adapting to a strategy that deals with the concerns of the Israelis, which is security. Security issue inside Israel is not propaganda. It's real. The Israelis are still living in the shadow of the Holocaust. The Israelis have lost trust in the peace option after the second Intifada, and now we have the 7th of October. And all of this is accumulating. Can we convince Israelis that there is a chance for trust? That if Palestinians are given freedom, Israelis will receive full security? I think yes. And I believe that the 7th of October could be bringing us closer to a political development. Most of the people believe that it's distancing us from a political development. I think it's the other way. It's the other way, maybe because on the psychological level, both sides psychologically feel that it's time to come to a settlement for this conflict. And we need to realize this opportunity, especially that there are dynamics in the region with the Saudi Arabia, with the Saudis waiting to be involved in normalization with Israel, into finding a way out for the Israelis or Palestinians from this conflict. And I think the Saudis are serious in what they say. We need to believe them. When they say we want to fully normalize with Israel, they mean it. When they say we need to see a progress towards the Palestinian state, we need to see a resolution for this conflict, they mean it. And this is massive. Saudi Arabia is the undisputed leader of the Arab and Muslim world. If I were an Israeli, I will change the date of independence for Israel from the 14th of May to the day I sign an agreement with the Saudis, because this is more massive. This is the date that Israel will be fully integrated in the Middle East. And Israel lives in the Middle East. It does not live in Europe. Although Israelis play football in Europe, they go to the Eurovision, but they belong to this neighborhood. And the Saudis are willing to open the doors of the whole neighborhood to fully integrate Israel into the Middle East, to open a new chapter where finally the Arabs, including the Palestinians, are the best allies to Israel in front of the mutual threat that we all have, which is Iran. And the stars are aligning. We can see that there are dynamics inside the Palestinian political system and street. There are dynamics in the Arab world, and there are dynamics into the major Western powers. All of these sides are willing to have things move into a regional arrangement. What we are trying to achieve now is not a vague peace accords. We would like to come to a regional security treaty that secures Israel more than ever, that secures the whole region from Iran more than ever, that clicks new horizons of economic development, that Israelis now are able not only to fly anyway to Europe, their gateway to connectivity with the world is Ben Gurion. They can drive, cross any borders they want, in the south, in the north, in the east, drive and connect to the Arab world. So the potential are big. I am very much optimistic. I'm optimistic because I know very well the Palestinians, I know very well the Israelis. And I know all the Israelis. I talk to Israel wall to wall. I talk to the left, I talk to the center, I talk to the right. I talk to the political elites of all the parties in Israel. I talk to the academia, I talk to the media. I interact with the Israelis. I can see that Israelis genuinely would like to live in peace. And I can confirm to you that Palestinians genuinely, by nature, would like to achieve peace. Can we do a kamikaze jump now, immediately, in 1 week, ceasefire, normalization with Saudi Arabia and the Palestinian state next to Israel? I think this is not practical. But we can start with steps of ending this war, releasing the Israeli hostages, and then bring up a process between Saudis, Israelis, and Palestinians. Some kind of equation, more for more. The more we provide security to Israel, the more Israel provides freedom to Palestinians, the more the Saudis will normalize. And we continue more for more until we achieve a comprehensive normalization, comprehensive security for Israel, and comprehensive freedom for Palestinians. Is it doable? It is doable. What are the bases technically of the kind of the solution? I don't know, because I don't want to think alone. I would like to be involved with the Israelis in defining what are the conditions acceptable to the majority of Israelis and the majority of Palestinians. What could be achieved, not what should be achieved. The Israelis have some expectations, the Palestinians have some expectations. Maybe we need to find a way that has a majority of satisfaction and support from the street on both sides. I don't want to continue talking. I prefer maybe if we engage into discussion and maybe talk on issues that are of more interest to the participants in this meeting. Thank you so much for inviting me, and I'm very happy to engage into a dialogue and discussion in the remaining time.
Summer, I think very impressive, and I know your point of view. I read a lot about your angle and listen to interviews that you give in Israel in different occasions. And yes, you're speaking to right, left, and center. Not only you performing and showing your elements in, as we say, one of most prestigious institutes in Israel, a Truman Center at the Hebrew University of Mount Scopus. And you grew up in Jerusalem. I would like maybe to start to take it into the discussion is in fact, how would you see a formula to take your message across to, it doesn't matter if it's Australia, UK, with new government, or USA or Canada, or the non-English speaking countries. When you hear someone like Roger Waters saying, give a chance to 7 million Jews to return to Europe and to the United States where they belong, and when Piers Morgan asks him, and what about those who wants to stay? They can stay as citizens of a new nation. It can be called the Holy Land. Do you have anything to say about? Because this is something that washes least the music lovers or those who adore Pink Floyd. But all in all, it's a major issue that we need to deal with in order to have lovers of peace and lovers of, I would say, harmony in the region being satisfied.
Well, Ethan, Palestinians don't want and will not attempt to throw Jews in the sea. And Israelis don't want and will not attempt to throw Palestinians into the sea. We live together in this land. And this is not something not new to this land. Historically, Jews are connected to this land. They lived in this land. I do recognize the historical rights of Jews in this land because they lived in this land. Okay, we should all recognize that Jews have never been alone in this land. There was always others, and these others are us. If we had that mutual history together, we should be able to find the mutual future together in this land. I understand that because of the Holocaust, because of so many things, Jews need to have their own Jewish state. But also Palestinians need to have their own national state. So nobody should argue about the right of Israel to exist as a Jewish state. And anybody who tries to argue on this is not relevant to the facts on the ground. He does not know this conflict. He does not know the Palestinians. He does not know the Israelis. The slogan that is raised by some people who might identify themselves as pro-Palestinians or anti-Israelis, the slogan of Free Palestine from the river to the sea, I think this slogan really does not serve the Palestinian cause. I think it's anti-Palestinians. The Palestinians don't want to throw the Jews into the sea. The Palestinians want to live together with the Jews in this place of the world. And there is two ways to do it. Either by separation in two-state solution. Now, what will be the borders exactly? Will we do swap, include the settlements inside Israel, militarized, non-militarized state? These are details that are not important at all. Will we later try to do some kind of confederation between the new entity and Israel and Jordan? These are things to come, but the principle is separation. The other option is equal rights state. Now, can we do equal rights states and maintain Israel as a Jewish state? Maybe. Sometimes I ask the young Palestinians, what do you prefer, one state or two states? And the young Palestinians are the black box eater. Nobody knows them. I have a friend of mine who has done an amazing study. His name is Dr. Michael Milstein from the Tel Aviv University. He issued a study, a book, under the name The Young Generation of the Old Conflict. In Hebrew, הדור הצעיר של הסכסוך הוותיק. And he spoke in his book about the young Palestinians, the young generation, the Gen Z. The Gen Z does not really very much care about symbols. They care about practical things. They are patriots. They are Palestinians. They are smarter than me and the old generations, but they are very practical. Now, when I ask young Palestinians, what's your best choice, two state or one state? They say, why should we care? Let the Israelis among themselves negotiate what do they prefer, and come back to us. If they choose two states, we are in. If they choose one state, we are in. Then I tell them, but will you accept to be part of a Jewish state? Itan, most of them, they tell me, we can be part of a Buddhist state if you want. Just give me rights. I don't care. Why should I care living in the Jewish state? So, in a way or another. But for me, if you want to ask me, despite that, we all have the feeling that maybe the settlement project led by the extreme right, Smotrich and his group, maybe has defeated the two-state option. I can tell you, we still have hope. The train did not leave the station yet. If we want really to achieve a two-state solution, there is a way still to do it. And it's better. It's better to stick to the two-state solution. Is there constituency in Israel to do this two-state solution now? No. But it's my duty to try to help the Israelis to be more comfortable into taking these steps, because this is the best practical solution for us. Maybe the two states will erase the borders one day, but I would like to see a Palestinian state next to Israel that does not possess any threat to Israel, that becomes the best ally to Israel. And it is possible for Arabs to be allies to Israel. We have seen on the 14th of April, when the Iranians attacked Israel with 300 drones and rockets, Saudi Arabia opened its skies for the American Air Force to start taking down these missiles before hitting Israel. And then the Jordanians took to the sky. In the Jordanian Air Force was part of the operation that defended Israel. The state of Palestine could be a similar ally to Israel, protecting Israel and protecting the whole region from the real threat. Sometimes you mentioned the Hebrew University, and I go a lot to the Hebrew University. The Hebrew University became a place where 30% of the students are Palestinians from East Jerusalem. And when you walk inside the Hebrew University, you see both Israeli students and Palestinian students put the same necklace of the whole map. I can differentiate the Israelis from the Palestinians because the Israelis put the whole map with the Golan Heights. And by the way, these necklaces are all produced in the same factory in China. They just, pack it differently and sell it. Does this really mean that these students who are going to the same lectures, taking the same exams, would like to throw the other side to the sea? No. But this is a very complicated period where people are, we don't want to test the feelings of Israelis and Palestinians now during the war. It's not smart. But Palestinians and Israelis are capable, and deep inside, they would like to live in peace with each other. And we need to have a leadership from both sides that serves these intentions, because currently the leadership is taking the Palestinians somewhere else, is taking the Israelis somewhere else. Do you think that Abbas really now cares about the suffer of millions of Palestinians? He's totally disconnected to them. He cares about other millions, the millions in his bank account every day. And I really have doubt that the current Israeli Prime Minister really cares about the 120 hostages inside Gaza. There are around 64 of them still alive, and the most of the Israeli public opinion would like to bring them home. But he cares more about another 120 Israelis, the Knesset members. And he cares about another 64 Israelis within the 120 members of the Knesset, his coalition. He doesn't want to lose any one of the 64 in the coalition, and he is less caring about the 64 living hostages in Gaza. So unfortunately, the current leadership on the Palestinian side and on the Israeli side, I don't want to discuss the Israeli side, I want to discuss the Palestinian side, is not really helping the Palestinians into finding the right track. And as I told you, the best way for us to achieve things with the Israelis is to try to communicate with the Israelis, convince the Israelis. Why do I need 149 embassies, Palestinian embassies all over the world, in Africa and Latin America and Australia and New Zealand? What are the impacts that they can achieve to me? If I were the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Palestine, I will close all these embassies and open liaison offices in each neighborhood in Israel. Communicate, talk to the Israelis. Try to find common ground with Israelis. And maybe this is doable in a process. If we want to be efficient, it should be a process top down. At least now, we, the political elite inside the Palestinian society, should find ways of friendship with the political elite inside Israel. We should communicate with them, talk to them, find common grounds with them. If we can build trust among the political elites in both sides, this will help this to come down to the street. Is it doable? I think it's doable because me personally, on the personal level, I can see that this is a successful strategy. It works, it brings results. My personal success can be collective national success if we adapt to this strategy as a whole political system in Palestine.
That's good. Thank you.
John, that's great to hear. And John, please open the space for others to ask.
Yes, I will. Thank you, Saammar. You make some really good points and interesting points, and I've got a couple of questions, but I see Jeff has got his hand up, has his hand up for a while, so I'm going to open up the mic for Jeff to ask his question and then invite a couple of others if you want to ask a question to put your hand up. So over to you, Jeff.
Thanks, John. Thanks, Saammar. I guess during the course of your presentation, you have no idea how many questions and thoughts that fires off in my mind as somebody who, from an Australian political point of view, is connected with the right, the left, and the centre, and interacts with them in a fairly regular manner. However, a few fundamental things, I guess, just to clarify and question you on a little bit. First of all, I take it that you believe that the preferred outcome is the two-state outcome at the present time, even though, as you said in your last comments about Hebrew University, some of the current generation see no distinction when it comes to Israel. They buy the same Chinese-made necklaces, and that's fantastic. But a two-state solution is perhaps where it ultimately leads to. What then becomes the status of Jerusalem, which I would argue in the post-Egyptian Exodus period historically is most known as the capital of the Israeli population and has been so since well before the existence of Islam and the Islamic communities. I think what I hear you espousing is what I would otherwise describe as a very secular Islamic approach, which I think is helpful. But the fundamental question then is that the biggest blockages to achieving any of the things that I hear you saying, which, look, I love what you're saying. It sounds really good to someone like me as a pro-Israeli, but pro-people type person, is how on earth are you going to get, first of all, into power in Fatah, secondly, then to remove Hezbollah from both the West Bank and from Lebanon, assuming that Hamas ceases to exist because Israel's dealt with them, and so therefore put yourself in the political and social place where you have a chance of driving these arguments forward?
Well, Jerusalem is a very sensitive issue. And I think the best way to handle Jerusalem is to recognize it as a city that is holy for three religions, equally and importantly, and that is a city that should be a capital for two nations. Now, I don't think that any side can claim the exclusivity rights over the city. This city is very important for 25, 30 million Jews all over the world. It is part of their history. It's part of their ideology. They are connected to it spiritually. We should recognize this, and we should be able to accommodate this in any kind of settlement in the city. But the city is also equally important to 2 billion Christians all over the world. It's equally important to 2 billion Muslims all over the world. So the city is a city of three faiths, and it should continue to be like this, open for worship for anybody. The status quo over the holy sites should be respected, because any kind of change in this status quo could bring fire. We have seen that Jerusalem is the nerve. Whenever we touch it, explosion happened here and there. One of the brilliant models for the arrangements in Jerusalem could be around the ideas of the plan of Olmert that was submitted to President Abbas in 2008. Unfortunately, I don't see a reason why Abbas did not sign immediately these offers. But, you know, Olmert is a mainstream Israeli leader. He was a Likud, he was a prime minister, and he was able to bring some very good ideas. Most recently, Olmert has suggested that the West Jerusalem and the Jewish neighborhoods in East Jerusalem will be the capital of Israel. All the other parts of Jerusalem will be the capital of Palestine. The old city and the Holy Basin will be not under Israeli sovereignty, not under Palestinian sovereignty, but will be administered by a committee of 5 states, including Israel and Palestine. Holy sites open for everybody. Worship freedom is guaranteed for everybody. Again, it's not smart to throw ideas now on these details. It's smart now to focus in building trust. When we build trust, I think it will be easier to accommodate certain arrangements inside Jerusalem. And Jerusalem is the most sensitive topic in the whole conflict. More important, you know, sometimes we thought that we should achieve political settlement and then reconciliation will come. I think we should do the opposite. We should focus into reconciliation now as a step towards enabling an environment for political settlement. If hatred and incitement will continue to be dominating among Palestinians and Israelis, and trust me, it's existing on both sides. You can find hatred and incitement in the Palestinian society, in the education, maybe in the curriculum. You will find it also in the Israeli media, in the education, maybe not in the curriculum, but in the discussions in the classrooms. It's here and there. We need to find hatred and incitement. We need to train Palestinians and Israelis not to have hard feelings. Okay, we had a very bad experience towards each other in this conflict, but we need to get rid of the hard feelings and move our eyes towards the future. Now our eyes are very much into the past, and this will not help us to move ahead. So we can find a way to handle Jerusalem. I gave you some ideas, but we need to wait and see dynamics between Israelis and Palestinians that can discuss this issue together. And what applies in Jerusalem applies on all the other sensitive issues.
Yeah, that's good, Saammar. You've made some very sensible discussion, which we would all love to see. We won't go into all the different aspects, in inverted commas, spiritually, etc. But in a practical sense, the big sticking point amongst a number of Israeli and Jewish people that we have here in Australia and friends in Israel was the unwillingness of Hamas to return the hostages. Now, I hear what you say, that the majority of Palestinians that you know are peace-loving and want to make peace and live together, but they seem to be under the axe, so to speak, from Hamas, that if they make any moves towards peace or even disclosing where hostages were, that they would be chopped off, heads gone, etc. How do you get rid of that fear the Palestinian people have of Hamas, is the question that I would ask, that you might have better insight into than I have.
Well, we need to be very engaged into talking about the day after. After 9 months of war, and if you want my opinion, I think Israel has done its maximum. This is the best Israelis can do. The army has tried everything in Gaza. This was a serious war for Israel. It was not, a sideline war. This was a war of existence. So they have tried everything possible with the maximum military power from Israel for 9 months. All what we have got is a blow of 35% of Hamas power. The American intelligence says that Hamas now still keeps 60 to 65% of its power. So we need to have some kind of political and diplomacy options on the table the day after. And if you tell me, well, if Hamas did not respond to this massive military power, will they respond to diplomacy? I will tell you we need to try. We should have a toolbox that have different tools. There is no magic stick here. And we should try all the options. And we can say lots of things about Hamas, but they are not stupid. They know that they have no chance to maintain their regime in Gaza for a simple reason. Who will give them $70-80 billion to reconstruct Gaza? Can really they now manage Gaza again? No. Somebody else needs to come and manage Gaza. But this address needs to have the capability. A Palestinian address should have the capability of gaining the trust of the Palestinian street. And the Palestinian street is fed up from the corruption that Abbas brought upon us in the West Bank and fed up from the destruction that Hamas brought upon us in Gaza. So the Palestinian street is looking for an alternative that can bring hope and constructions for the Palestinians. Second, this address should be able to have the trust of Israel. Any address that wants to replace Hamas in Gaza should be able to work with the Israelis. And third, this address should be able to gain the trust of the world. The world is going to invest billions in Gaza, and they should trust those who are going to receive this money. Fourth, this Palestinian address should be able to negotiate and get the keys of Gaza from Hamas. This is the day after. If you want to tell me who is preventing progress now, I will tell you it's Hamas, Abbas, and the current Israeli Prime Minister. Unfortunately, each for different reasons is hesitating from contributing to unlock the situation in Gaza. Well, the main issue is Hamas. The main issue is the hostages. Yes, but we need to be smart into providing conditions that we can fill the vacuum, get the keys, release the hostages, and open the doors for the diplomatic development, including the Saudis, including the regional security arrangements that I was talking about at the beginning.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, thank you for that. Geraldine, I see you have your hand up, so perhaps you'll be the last question before we'll end the official part of the evening. Over to you, Geraldine.
Thank you, John, and thank you, Summer, as well, for coming on and speaking with us. It's very insightful what you have to say. But initially, my initial response is, what evidence is there that the common Palestinians are, well, if they were normal, you know, like any other human being, of course, they want peace, but what evidence is there that they want peace and want to live next door to Israelis? I understood from October 7 there were just also farmers and children and others that were involved in the onslaught there. But what evidence is there for what you're saying?
I am one evidence.
Yeah.
I'm a mainstream Palestinian. I am a Fatah guy. I visited the envelope of Gaza after the 7th of October in a condolences visit, and under the presence of cameras, I condemned the atrocities of the 7th of October. And I am talking to the Palestinians every day. I'm part of the Palestinian people. I am a mainstream politician, and I tell you, Palestinians would like to have peace. And they don't mind living next to Israel. But the Palestinians are experiencing a lot of hardship from the current situation. Now, take me an example. I was born in Jerusalem 50 years ago, 1972, in the old city. Well, from generations I was living in Jerusalem. Jerusalem is declared as the united eternal capital of Israel. Can you please give me one reason why I am not an Israeli citizen? Why I am a resident, a permanent resident, and I am part of the eternal united capital of Israel? 40% of the inhabitants of the city are non-citizens, residents. Why? Because Moshe Dayan decided in 1967 that let's keep the Palestinians as the residents. We annex Jerusalem, East Jerusalem, the land, but not the people. And let's see. And they are not in a hurry. But I am in a hurry. I need to be at least a citizen of one state, at least, any state. Can any individual in the world stay stateless without a residency? I have 3 travel documents, not a single passport. The Israelis provide me with an Israeli travel document that says I am Jordanian as a nationality. The Jordanians provide me with a travel document that says I am a Palestinian. And according to the Oslo Accords, I am not allowed to have a Palestinian travel document. And they give it to me only when I go to Hajj, but it's not legal. So technically, I have 3 travel documents, not a citizenship. This is not healthy. So in a way or another, yes, there is hardship on both sides, but both Israelis and Palestinians really deep. Every Palestinian mother, every Israeli mother would like to have a safe future for their kids. This is by nature. And we need to trust these instincts inside both Palestinians and Israelis. Lack of leadership, it's what is missing. And I say it's more urgent on the Palestinian side to do this change of leadership. Once we have a proper leadership that speaks my minds, that has my vision, new dynamics will be created with the Israelis, will bring Israelis closer to trust Palestinians, and things will have a different development. Then we will start, driving in the right path.
That's good.
John.
Saamer, that's, wonderful. I just want to say on behalf of Kingdom Builders, and Etan can finish with a thank you, but we just really appreciate you coming on and giving us different perspectives of what we observe and what we are seeing from afar. And of course, we see a lot of anti-Semitism in Australia, as in Western countries as well. But it's great to hear your heart for peace and for coming together and living side by side. And so I just want to say a great big thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate it. And Etan, you may say a final word, and then we'll finish the official part of this meeting. So, Saamer, as we always do, we try to finish at around 5:30 Australian time, and then we go into half an hour of prayer for Israel and for Palestine and for all the peoples. So we have our Christian prayer, if you like, for half an hour after this meeting's finished. So over to you, Etan.
Thank you. First of all, thank John for usual partnership here, and it's good that we open the door for someone who represents, in my opinion, a different tunnel, a tunnel with the light at the end, and not a talent that is dedicated to terror. And thanks, Saamer, for your torch, and for turning on the torch to people who doesn't have the background to understand that there is another stream that seeks peace, and have the courage also to say publicly, and like yourself, and not only yourself, the people around you, and people in the diaspora of the Palestinian people, and people inside Jerusalem, and other places. You mentioned a lot of factors here that are very much taken into consideration as the food for thoughts for us. And I think that one thing that you did today is you emphasized on the power of public diplomacy, because public diplomacy, us as private people, on one hand, everyone here on the screen is an ambassador of goodwill, and everyone loves the state of Israel. We're going very frequent to Israel every few years with the delegation of Kingdom Builders pre-COVID, and then started, of course, the issue with the judiciary reform in Israel, and we are planning to go again very soon. And I would say public diplomacy is the power of NGOs that are existing around us to open roundtables, to discuss. And I think that if we would even be on a negotiation, I would say, pace from Madrid via Oslo to today, the situation would be better and would be much more beneficial for both people. And I want to commend you on coming. And don't forget, you speak here to ambassadors and consuls. And every one of them is taking the message across. And I would like to say thank you to all. And I probably stay with you to pray as we do, as you do weekly. And Summer, what can I say? Thanks for your joining us today.
Thank you so much, Ethan. Thank you very much. It was a pleasure.
Lovely
And
to
God
meet you,
bless you.
Summer, and we look
I-
forward to visiting again our university. Well, the university we went to, we actually started a program at Hebrew U many years ago on the kingdom and how it affects the marketplace. So we'd look forward to meeting you when we come next time. So thank you again. For those who need to go now, you will be released. We'll finish the recording and then we'll play a song and come back and spend some time together. So blessings to all.
Thank you.